to the opposition. Trump could come in for more scrutiny about his health now that he has the whole shuffleboard court to himself. Trump, a 78-year-old man, has shared very little when it comes to his medical history. He's now relying on a doctor who's a member of his Bedminster, New Jersey golf club. The doctor wrote a 3-paragraph letter back in November with no details, just saying Trump was in, quote, excellent health and that he's lost weight. But as we saw with President Biden, age and cognitive ability is very much something voters care about and think about and vote on. Hidden among the calls for Biden to drop out following his debate performance was the fact that 60% of all voters believe Donald Trump is too old to serve as our nation's president. And a new AP poll from last week finds that 57% of all adults say Trump should withdraw from the race and allow his party to name a replacement. That, of course, won't happen, barring some extraordinary circumstance, but it is an interesting fact to keep in mind about voters as November's general election inches closer and closer. It's where we start the hour with some of our favorite experts and friends. MSNBC columnist and contributor Charlie Sykes is back with us, plus former GOP communications director, co-founder and CEO of the Seneca Project, Tara Setmeyer is here, and staff writer for The Atlantic, author of the important new book, Autocracy, Inc., The Dictators Who Want to Run the World, Anne Applebaum is here. We'll get to the book in a minute, but Anne, I want to start with your piece. Deranged is the perfect word for it. I went back Sunday after digesting the news about President Biden and watched it because I was on set, I watched the whole thing from the beginning through the long, tedious middle all the way to the end. And the feeling that he was the front runner, that he was winning this race, really sort of sat in your gut when you saw how beatable he should be in a political context. Now that the Democrats have flipped the script, I think that speech is a real political liability. Talk about what you've written today.
Yeah, no, I had exactly the same experience. I went back and read it, actually. I read the transcript. And, of course, the transcript makes no sense. I copy-pasted piece of it into my article, and a copy editor said, what is that? Is that grammatically correct? No, that's actually the grammar that he used. And then I also went back and watched it as well. And, of course, the speech started out talking about the assassination, and I think it was meant to be very moving. But he wasn't really able to keep that tone going, and he kept digressing even when he was doing that. And then later on, he went off in these various tangents that he's gone off on before. Some really make no sense. There was a thing about Hannibal Lecter. There was a thing about Venezuela that seemed completely irrelevant. And suddenly you looked at that, and this was the rantings of somebody who you wouldn't hire to fix your car. I mean, you wouldn't consider him a competent person. And suddenly the speech, rather than being a frightening screed, just looked like something an incompetent person was reciting. And then, putting him next to somebody who is able to speak coherently, who can make points, who can make arguments, I think he's going to look different.
And it's such a salient political point. It captures our new political reality better than anything else has that I've read since 1:46 p.m. Sunday. And I just want to press you on how to refocus. And I think the universal condemnation of the political violence that transpired a week before, I think, made that speech disorienting because it did start. And I had the written remarks, and as you're tracking on what was written, it was intended to be this. And he said, "I'm not going to talk about getting shot after tonight." So you really sort of stood at attention. He's already tweeted about it a couple more times, and of course, everybody has condemned and will continue to condemn what he was a victim of at his rally, but he wasn't able to sit in the pocket of that moment and of that bipartisan condemnation of political violence. And his running mate had someone calling for civil war. They've apologized for those comments, but he's sort of reverted back. He's snapped back to his own set point of harboring these extreme political views as articulated in Project 2025, harboring outrageous and bizarre affection and affinity for the world's most brutal dictators, and really having no ability to land his own lines. How do you assess his political strength in this new moment?
I mean, it's funny. I also, when you watch and when you read the first part of the speech, it's clear what he'd been told to do, which is play on the moment of unity, speak to the whole nation, talk about what a miracle it was that he wasn't killed, and you could see how that would have been or should have been something that was moving to a lot of people, including people who don't support him, people who aren't Republicans. But as I said, he couldn't stick to the script. He digressed for a second about his ear and how ears bleed more than the rest of your body, which couldn't possibly have been in the script. And then, exactly as you said, he reverted to these vicious attacks on his enemies, references to violence, images of chaos and disaster that are coming to the United States. And those aren't unifying, convincing, images that are designed to bring people together. I mean, he's unable to be anything except very divisive. And even that moment that moved a lot of other people and made many people feel shocked and frightened and, desirous of a calmer kind of politics, it didn't move him.
That's such a good point, Charlie Sykes. I mean, it didn't move him. Might be the best way to understand that horrific, moment. I guess it's only 2 Saturdays ago now, or 1 Saturday. I mean, time is in this bizarre. It's all sort of accordioned on itself, and we've had 3 race-changing events in less than that amount of time. We had the debate. We had the attempt on Donald Trump's life, and we had Joe Biden stepping off the ticket. What is your sense? How do you assess the state of the race today?
Well, Mike Murphy in the last hour uses the phrase head snapping, and it is head snapping. When I was listening to you and Ann talk about this, it occurred to me that when Donald Trump took that stage in Milwaukee at that moment, he was probably in a more dominant position than he's ever been in his political life. And now think about how the world has changed. Everything about this race has changed. For the last month, almost all of the discussion has been about the frailty of Joe Biden, the cognitive health of Joe Biden. And Republicans have spent a tremendous amount of effort making the age and cognitive health of the ticket just absolutely central, top of mind for the American people. And now here we are. And I don't think we've got a sense of how this is going to shake out, because he was planning to run against sleepy Joe Biden, who did not campaign frequently, who was not vigorous, who was not prosecuting that case. And look what's happening right now. Now, again, there is a moment. I mean, given the sort of the honeymoon that Kamala Harris is getting, I don't think that we ought to sleep on the fact that none of this was inevitable. The Democrats could have devolved into chaos. There could have been a lot of ungraciousness. There could have been finger pointing. It looked like there was going to be that circular firing squad. But right now, the Democrats are united. They are energized. I do think that there is something that did not exist a week ago, which is hope. Now, you can't win a campaign on hope, but trust me, despair will kill you every single time. The only caution I have is that we need to brace ourselves for what's coming, because Donald Trump is still Donald Trump. For the last 8 years, he has used invective and personal attack against his opponents. He firmly believes that that sort of cruel rhetoric actually works for him and helps him. So there is going to be a cataract, a tsunami of negativity heading toward Kamala Harris. The question will be, number one, how she responds, but also it's kind of a test. Donald Trump believes the American people, the voters, will like it, that there won't be a backlash. And we're about to find out whether he's right about that still.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie, let me just push back. I don't think it's about how she responds. I think it's about how we respond. And I think when the Republicans start there will be macro and microaggressions. There will be overt racist attacks, and there will be sort of subliminal racist attacks. And I think the answer to all of them is, America really ready to elect its oldest president? Are they really ready to elect a convicted felon found liable for sexual abuse?
Well, that's right. And the focus is now squarely on that. And that's what's really interesting in the last, 72 hours, that people are going back and going, okay, we talked about Joe Biden a lot, but in the background, every day Donald Trump was going out and delivering one of these deranged speeches filled with absolute gibberish. And you know, he had convinced people that maybe that was just the normal. But he is 78 years old. He is clearly not the man he was even 4 years ago. And now people are looking at that. And in part because Republicans and Donald Trump has made that a salient issue. And the focus is back on that. And what you can see from Kamala Harris is that she is fully prepared to prosecute all of those issues.
All right, Tara, Charlie did it. He called for gibberish. Gibberish delivered.
I have the wounds all over my body. If I took this shirt off, you'd see a beautiful, beautiful person. But you'd see wounds all over me. There's never been, no third world country has a border like that. And no I'll tell you what, I hope the military revolts at the voting booth. And the water starts flooding in. I'm getting concerned. But then I look 10 yards to my left and there's a shark over there. Do I get electrocuted or do I go with the shark? I said, because I will take electrocution all day long.
So that's on the menu for the voters in November.
Well, now that can be the focus. And we can actually start talking about this again, because for the last several weeks and frankly months, that really has not been the focus about some of the insanity that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. I mean, they are the rantings of a madman who is clearly ill-equipped to be president of the United States. So I'm thrilled, as sad as I am to see Joe Biden leave the race. He's a hero and a great statesman. I'm glad that we now can start to remind the American people of what life was like under Donald Trump and show folks what life would be like under him in the future. They tell us, he demonstrates this to us every single day. The Seneca Project has been putting out ads comparing what he used to be like from the bully pulpit. We have one out today, how he went after women, how nasty he was to women. We took J.D. Vance's own words and his extreme positions on abortion to introduce the American people to J.D. Vance and who Donald Trump picked. I mean, I don't think that average Americans, when now that they can focus and concentrate on this without the distraction of Joe Biden's age anymore, are going to look at this ticket and say, yes, that is an inspirational, future forward-looking ticket that I want to raise my daughters in an America run by J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, and the troglodytes and testosterone party that the GOP has now become, evidenced by what we saw on the stage at the RNC. That is not I'm confident that the American people, particularly women in this country, we make up the majority of Americans. We make up the majority of voters. We vote at a higher propensity rate than men do. Women are looking at this as they pay attention, and they're going to make a choice in November about what they want their future to look like. Who do they want their daughters to live under, in what type of world? And I find it hard to believe, as we continue to put the spotlight on not only the rantings of the madman things that Donald Trump says, but the lack of character, of decency, the fact that he's a felon, the fact that he doesn't respect democracy, the fact that he doesn't respect what makes America great. I've said this to you before on your show. I think Donald Trump hates America, what makes America great. He despises everything about America. And Kamala Harris is the complete opposite. She represents the best of America. And how fitting would it be that the answer to the Donald Trump hatred and the regression that Trumpism represents would be electing the first, not only female